What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my main man, Jacob Punturi. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they got something today. Not a trade, not a signing, not a nothing. Just a clarification of just how freaking good TJ Watt is and how maybe the man really does deserve every single penny because the NFL says, yeah, he's still that good. Meanwhile, one radio host out here in Pittsburgh has tossed another wild trade out there. We're going to dive into it and see what's going on. And then we got some news and notes that's pretty cool, to be honest with you. Plus, it's Wednesday, and what's more likely is on the horizon. It's a good one here in the Berg. About to rain. You could tell outside, which is great. Left my bike out there, but we'll worry about that at 5:01. Until then, how you feeling, my friend?
Feeling okay, man. I did not have my driveway blocked, or I did not have to continue my my siege of Duquesne Light today. So that was great. Appreciate all their work as always, but I will take you down. I'm doing well besides that. I mean, middle of the week, what more can you ask for? No, I got to ask you real quick before we get into anything else. Have you reached the point of life? I know we're the same age, but have you reached the point of life where you just wake up and you're just like sore, but like it affects you the rest of your day? Because I'm going through one of those things where my body's either shutting down right now or I slept wrong on my neck. Couldn't tell you, but one of those things is happening.
All right. So the answer is yes. I hope you're good, but the answer is yes. Sleeping to me is it's a full exercise. I have to stretch before bed. Have to. My wife tells me it's her only rule. It's the only thing I ever ask of my wife. I never ask her to do literally anything for me. I'm just like, dude, I got it. No big deal. The one thing I need her to do every single day is when we get into bed, she has to go, did you stretch today? Because her saying that gets my lazy butt out of bed and go, I was trying not to, but here we are. Yeah, I have to stretch. I have a special pillow because it's the pillow cube so that it gets the neck area there. And when I get up in the morning, if I don't chug a water and do some stretching, I am literally I feel like I just broke something. And by something, I mean my body. So yeah, I hate to. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're feeling this way this morning.
This afternoon. Tough. Should have brought my neck brace for today's show, but I will push through for you, Noah. I will.
How many tubes Icy Hot you go through in a year?
I've gone through about half a tube of Arnicare today, so that let's put me on a pretty bad pace already. But
yeah, I feel that, dude. Me and Shaquille O'Neal, if he ever wants to sponsor us, I don't want payment. I just want free Icy Hot. That's all because I am the sole reason that still exists. I promise. I'm pretty sure one day we're all going to die from it, but it is keeping me alive at 29 years old. Let me tell you. Tell you. Let's talk some Pittsburgh Steelers football before Jake's neck falls off. We're going to start with it might be the DPs, man. It might be the early morning DPs. That's what it might be. That's what it might be.
Contributing. Yeah.
Here's a wild story on Aaron Rodgers that came up today, and this is where we'll start. Obviously, we'll talk TJ Watt, potential trade, Detroit Lions, the whole nine, but I want to start with Aaron Rodgers and a story that emerged from the draft 20 years ago on the Pittsburgh Steelers, now quarterback. Speaking on the situation on what was in 2005, former NFL executive Doug Whaley, who at the time was the personnel executive with the Pittsburgh Steelers from 2004 and the 2005 draft, said that the Steelers almost went with good old Aaron Rodgers, saying, quote, we wouldn't have had to trade up. We would have just sat there. We would have had him higher than that. We were surprised he was slipping. Obviously, Rodgers went 24th overall to the Green Bay Packers. He was a guy that, I mean, you go back to that draft and people are going, he's the number one pick in the draft. I think it was stunning that he fell the way that he did. And he added this as well, quote, then when the Browns took Kellen Winslow, we were all like, wait a minute. Seriously. I remember looking around the room saying, where are the cameras? Is this one of those jokes? We couldn't believe Ben fell to us when they drafted Ben Roethlisberger, obviously 11th overall in 2004. Wild. First of all, let's start with the easy one there, that the Pittsburgh Steelers, once again, helped by the good old Cleveland Browns. But what could have been in Aaron Rodgers being a Pittsburgh Steeler? Absolutely insane. I mean, we'll talk, and I don't want to ruin one of my what's more likely's revolves around this, so I'm not going to ruin it early. But I do want your general opinion of what is life for a Pittsburgh Steelers fan if Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback for the last 20 years of the black and gold. Where are we? What is this organization? And let me ask you, do any of us look at Aaron right now the same way that we look at Ben now that he's retired, if it was reversed?
I have to believe that if Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback, from 2005 until, now, presuming he's still playing, he has to at least mirror what Ben Roethlisberger accomplishes in Pittsburgh over his career, right? And because of that, I think, he would probably have reached a very similar place and status sort of in the ranks of Steelers quarterbacks and the NFL's all-time list. I think the Steelers have been incredibly blessed, obviously, to have like franchise caliber quarterbacks that led them to Super Bowls on 2 separate occasions. I think that would have probably happened if Aaron Rodgers had been selected in 2005, if the Steelers had missed on Ben Roethlisberger entirely in 2004. And would he be, if he had retired at that point, and would he be looked at today in a similar light? Yeah, I think the city of Pittsburgh still has a very fond look on Ben Roethlisberger and his time. And I think if Aaron Rodgers was in that position, he would be looked upon the same way.
I think I agree. But I mean, your mind goes to so many places. I'll point this out. Green Bay loves Aaron. They don't dislike Aaron. My brother's a Green Bay Packers fan, and that guy still to this day loves Aaron Rodgers. He looks at it in a different light than I think the rest of the NFL. Like me and you talk about Aaron, it's like, all right, let's stick to football. Me and you talk about Aaron, and it's okay, there's the off the field weird stuff going on. My brother is strictly, this man is a god for what he has brought to the Green Bay Packers organization. And it's the same way with Brett Favre. Like nobody in Green Bay is sitting around going, that dirtbag stealing money from kids, allegedly. And they're just looking at it going, that man is like the 6th greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL. And I can't thank him enough for being a member of the Green Bay Packers. And I think we would just look at Aaron the same way. Absolutely nuts. Would you rather have Ben for 20 years or Aaron?
Oof. Man. Now that's a great question. 2 Super Bowls beats 1, I guess. But here, man, it's hard to ignore the totality of Ben Roethlisberger and his entire career when asking who would I have rather had for 20 years. I think the 2 Super Bowls speaks very loudly. So, let's stick with that and say that the 2 Super Bowls is probably the way to go. But Aaron Rodgers would have been a wild ride for 2 decades. I mean, can you I don't see any sort of scenario or situation where Aaron Rodgers doesn't win at least 1 Super Bowl, to just lay out the entire hypothetical world here. If he goes to Green Bay, anywhere else, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He finds a way to win a Super Bowl. Can I ask you a crazy, crazy hypothetical, since we're just in that land right now?
I love it. Yes,
well,
always.
This reminds me of another hypothetical situation where a hypothetical quarterback situation, where the Pittsburgh Steelers could have drafted a quarterback, maybe didn't, and a Hall of Fame career ensued. Dan Marino. Yeah. What would you have rather the Steelers have done if you could go back in time and fix it? 05 taking Rodgers, or go back in time, it was at 84 or whatever, and taking Dan Marino?
It's without question Dan Marino. It's without that's the Steelers' biggest miss in NFL history is Dan Marino. It's the reason Kenny Pickett got drafted to the Pittsburgh Steelers is because Art Rooney said, I will not do this again. I will not make the same mistake that my dad did in passing on what is now one of the greatest quarterbacks it's Dan Marino. Now, didn't Dan not want to come to Pittsburgh or something like that? Or
There's lots of, this is all speculation. There's lots
yeah.
of reasons why he maybe didn't want to come to the Steelers. Lots of reasons maybe the Steelers did not want to take Dan Marino at the time. He reported he allegedly had quite the reputation as the Pitt quarterback.
Yes.
So, there probably was a lot of different mediating factors and variables in that equation. And the Steelers, if we talk about the Steelers being a team of tradition and of, the organizational culture being a very heavy factor now in 2025, talk about it back in the 80s. There was no shot, like you know what I mean? If there was any sort of character concerns, questions, or even the thought occurred, the Steelers were likely to pass on that player or to not want to associate with them at all. So times have changed for sure. But I mean, you hear lots as a Pitt grad and as a graduate of the high school that he attended as well. You hear some stuff. So
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
I can see why the Steelers might have passed on him in the 80s.
That's hilarious. My pediatrician as a kid obviously was Dan Marino's father-in-law, I'm pretty sure. So shout out to that guy, because I don't think I was getting those stories. I don't know if he knows those stories. Let's hope that he and his daughter, assumed, I believe, I'm pretty sure it's his father-in-law, because I grew up my whole life going like, I don't know who the hell. I was like 6. I was like, who the hell's Dan Marino, bro? Stop talking to me. Put the thing down my throat. Let's get this over with.
Great quarterback to never win a Super Bowl, brother. That's
without
sure.
question. Without question. And it could have been, man, the quarterbacks that could have come through the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they didn't. Let's talk about a wide receiver who might come through the Pittsburgh Steelers, who was floated out here earlier today by good old Andrew Filipponi in 93.7 The Fan, a guy who continues to, if we're going to be honest, like, give us a little bit when you need a little bit, you know what I mean? When you need a little bit, Andrew Filipponi, he gives us a little bit. He tweeted this out today. If the Steelers and TJ Watt can't come to an agreement on a new deal in the next month, which would be August 9th, would you consider this trade? TJ Watt to the Lions for wide receiver Jameson Williams, a 2026 second-round pick, and a 2027 third-round pick. Now, I want to pull up Jameson Williams' stats, and I mean, at 24 years old, just turned 24, he's coming off his first 1,000-yard season with 7 touchdowns this year. Would you do it? Would you pull the trigger? Obviously, we'll have the conversation of how it's not going to happen afterwards. I want the general answer of, would you do it if the Lions called the Steelers today and said, we'll give you Jameson Williams a second this year and a third next year for TJ Watt? Would you say yes or would you say no?
I'd say no, but I'd say we're in the ballpark. And the reason why is because a player like Jameson Williams is in the Steelers offense right now, in my opinion, would be well suited to be the number 2 wide receiver. Solid age, solid physical traits, coming off a first 1,000-yard season, showed a very, very strong breakout campaign, catching the ball with Jared Goff last year. I think he could come in and be a very reliable secondary option for the Steelers. Yeah. And if they are going to deal Watt, not talking about whether that would happen or not, I think you would have to go out and get at least a quality position player in an area of need, wide receiver, secondary, offensive line, something like that. Jameson Williams fits the bill for sure. Where I get hung up on is the draft picks as well. I think that's just not really enough. And Jameson Williams alone is not elite enough of a wide receiver to warrant any sort of negotiation back and forth about how there needs to be more draft picks to accompany that trade. So no, but not a complete refusal that, ruins the relationship between us and the Detroit Lions, if you get my drift.
Yeah. I definitely feel that. I think there's a conversation to be had there. I mean, I like Jameson Williams. I think he's a good draft pick. I've heard really good things about him. There's like the whole got arrested like one time for driving around or something with a gun, I think, which is never good. You never want that. But I mean, I've spoken to people in Detroit who have really good things to say about Jameson. One of the best things that I've been told about when it comes to Jameson Williams is the fact that this dude just goes into downtown Detroit and hangs out with people. Like if you're just like chilling at a restaurant or at a bar or something, he'll just come in and sit down and just be like, "What's up? Could I hang out?" And like that, I mean, that's pretty sick. I don't think I'd recognize him, but that's pretty sick to be like, I think I'd be like, "Who the hell are you, dude? Get out of my booth, you weirdo. Like, what are you doing?" But I think it'd be cool. I like the draft pick. It's closer than anything that's been floated out there, to be really honest. Like, the Trey Hendrickson nonsense, the Terry McLaurin would never in a million years. This one, at least, like, there's something you could pull away to be like, Jameson Williams ain't bad. He's definitely a strong number 2. Doesn't ever become a number 1, but he's a number 2, and you feel good about him as a number 2. And a second round pick is way more than I would imagine the Steelers are getting for TJ Watt. A third in 2027 is, I mean, just an added value to this, almost a cherry on top of the TJ Watt Sunday. I would do it. Now, in terms of, I would come close. I would say it would be a consideration of mine, where a lot of these haven't been a consideration of mine. Now I'll ask the real question. I mean, how close is this to being real? Not really happening, but how close is this to being a real trade hypothetical that makes logical sense for both sides?
It makes a ton of sense from the Detroit side. Like it fills a very immediate need while Hutchinson recovers. It makes them the scariest sort of defensive front in the NFL when Hutchinson is 100%. It makes too much sense from the Lions' perspective. I can understand them being all in on trying to make this deal work. From the Steelers' perspective, even with it being meeting some parameters of what the Steelers would need in a hypothetical return, I don't think it's close. I would say it's, I'll grade on a scale of 1 to 10. I would call it about like a 4. So like, again, we're getting there. It's not the worst. It fits a lot of, it checks a lot of boxes, so to speak, as to what I think the Steelers should try to get in return, but it's just not enough value still.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I don't think, for one, the Lions want to sign Williams. This I know. I had conversations at the NFL Combine about where the future was there, because the Steelers were looking for a wide receiver, and I said, let's check in Detroit. Let's see how things are going in Detroit. And I was told that Jameson Williams is a guy that they want to ink. They really like who Jameson Williams is as a player and a person. And I think the draft picks are where we're like off on this. If you remove the second round pick, Keem Jameson Williams, and a third in 2027, even a third in 2026, the Steelers, on the Steelers side of things, this is a move that it might be the best trade offer you're going to get. On the Lions side of things, if they're in for it, they're crazy. I think it's a great move. I think it's a great move for Detroit, but I mean, they'd have to like really be looking and feel really good about where they are elsewhere. But I think you remove the second round pick, bump the third in 27 to 26. And it's like a real conversation of both sides this might be realistic for both sides. Do I think it would happen? No, but it's the closest hypothetical, unless you could think of another, it's the closest hypothetical ponies thrown out there. I think we've talked about to this point. I mean, I've seen stuff like AJ Brown for TJ Watt. There's no chance that would happen. Like there's a 0% chance that would go down for both sides. Nobody in Philadelphia is like, let's get rid of AJ Brown. Nobody in Pittsburgh is like, let's get rid of TJ Watt for AJ Brown. That would be awesome, but it wouldn't happen. This is the first time that I feel it's a hypothetical in a sense of like, maybe. Would the Steelers be better or worse?
Worse. No. Okay, that would be too much of a generalization. There's about 3 to 7 scenarios where the Steelers trade TJ Watt and get better. This is still not one of them. And I think that's why I just, like, time and time again, when it comes to these general conversations, like, I think there is a difference between the empirical trade value of TJ Watt across the NFL, which, as we talked about a little bit yesterday, is not what everyone wants it to be, right? It is something lower, like a second round draft pick or a roster player and a mid-round draft pick. a roster player less than Jamison Williams, I would add, and a mid-round draft pick would be like the going trade rate for TJ Watt, despite his excellence. I just do not accept that being a return that the Steelers should take, and I do not accept that they can get any other sort of they can manipulate that situation into any other sort of win that makes them better for 2025 or really even beyond. I'm very confident in Omar Khan's drafting ability and the Steelers drafting ability,
Yeah.
but I don't. That does not equate to the Steelers are then going to be a better team 2025 and 2026 or 2027. You lose to TJ Watt, you become a worse team. There's just no way around that for me.
I agree. Look at the NFL made that very clear today. Did you see the ESPN list where TJ Watt was ranked number 2 behind Myles Garrett? And to be honest with you, in any other offseason, I'd say ESPN and all the NFL executives get off, just knock it off with the Myles Garrett propaganda here. Okay. But this offseason, I'm going to make it very clear. My message is very simple. The NFL has spoken about how good TJ Watt still is. And when you have Aiden Hutchinson, when you have Micah Parsons, when you have Max Crosby's and Daniel Hunters and Trey Hendricksons and all these names out there at edge rusher, and TJ Watt's coming off his second worst fully healthy season in his NFL career, and he's still named the second best edge rusher in football. It is a clear and direct message that this dude is still elite. He's still everything you're looking for and more. And really, I think it's a clear message that the Pittsburgh Steelers better freaking listen, because you don't give up the second best player at a premium position. This is not a middle linebacker. This is not a safety. This is a premium position. Edge rushers don't get traded often. Why? Because of how valuable the position is. You want to stop Patrick Mahomes? Don't let him throw the football.
Mm-hmm.
You want to stop Josh Allen? Don't let him throw the football. And the NFL has spoken. Your thoughts on him being number 2 behind Myles Garrett and being number 2?
I mean, look, I'll take another opportunity, to take pot shots at Myles Garrett. Sure. I don't think it's right. I think TJ Watt is still the best edge rusher in football. And I won't stop saying it probably till I'm dead. So don't love that. But
with
aside
the way your
from
neck's
that,
feeling, that could be any day.
yeah. Oh, the way I think that is actually why I'm in so much pain, because seeing that list has caused me such great discomfort, especially in the neck area, that I'm close to being deceased. So yeah, thoughts and prayers, y'all, for me. Thank you. I think what this reinforces for me more than anything is what we've already long known, and what a ton of the NFL fans, Steelers Nation is well aware of as well. TJ Watt is still elite. He is still unbelievably good. He is still the Steelers' best player. They absolutely need to pay this man and get this contract situation wrapped up. It doesn't every day. I got to keep banging the drums on this. I don't care how good of an offer you get, how contentious this sort of back and forth goes, and whatever relationship strains happen because of it. Get this deal done. This guy's coming off a terrible year by his standards, and it still was excellent by the NFL standards. Pay the man. Let's tie up the last loose end before the season begins, and then we can address the roster improvements from there. And let's just be done with all this nonsense. Pay TJ Watt, or my neck will keep hurting.
Fantastic. I can't disagree. TJ Watt's a guy, and we've preached this on the show, and we'll continue to preach this on the show. TJ Watt deserves every single penny they're going to give him and more, and I can't wait for him to showcase that. With that said, it's Wednesday. We've talked a pretty cool Aaron Rodgers story. I'm going to be honest. Like I like the Aaron Rodgers story. The Pittsburgh Steelers nearly land. Like, that's a cool one. Of all the crazy Aaron Rodgers stories out there, this is the one where at least you could smile about it and have some fun. No, I'm kidding. Eddie the First said, "No, don't adjust your hat." Something. No, I know nothing yet. Although I will, and I'm going to be very honest with you guys. I did have a conversation last night, real late last night, probably about right before bed. And by real late and right before bed, I mean about 9:45, because I'm a grandfather and I go to bed real early. But did have a conversation just to check in. You know what I mean? Like, this is the time you just got to check in every week or so. You got what's going on. Here we are, a couple of texts back and forth, and there's no update. The update is we're negotiating and everything's going to be fine. But that's what it is. And when it comes, look at you guys. I don't push just like the Aaron Rodgers thing where I just knew he was coming. For 3 months it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. TJ Watt right now. If my mindset changes, you guys know I got a phone call that is not great. But until then, things I'm hearing is TJ Watt and the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to get a deal done. And when it's going to happen, nobody knows. But he's pretty optimistic that they're going to get a deal done. With that said, it's Wednesday. Let's play a little bit of what's more likely. I got 4 of them for you. I'm pretty excited, jazzed up for these ones. We talked a little bit of Aaron Rodgers, okay? And Aaron Rodgers potentially coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers 20 years ago, replacing Ben Roethlisberger. They got a whole situation going on. What could have been, man? What could have been? But you could ask the same question. What if Tommy Maddox never gets hurt? Well, Ben still probably starts, wins a couple of Super Bowls. And Pittsburgh Steelers are probably in the same spot, which is great. Aaron might be a little bit of a different story. If the Pittsburgh Steelers drafted Aaron Rodgers, what's more likely? That they would have won more Super Bowls with good old A-Rod or more Super Bowls with Ben, which is 2?
Ooh, unfortunately, and this is not a disrespect to Aaron Rodgers.
Oh,
the starting quarterback. Stay with me now. I think because he only had he's only won 1 Super Bowl. I think it's more likely that they would have won less than what they have won in that time. Not that I think Aaron Rodgers would have been incapable of winning more. He could have won more, sure, but I have no proof of that. So I think in the meantime, I have to go with it would have been more likely that he would have won less than 2 had the Steelers selected him back in the first round of 2005.
I love that because you know what? Ben doesn't get the credit that he deserves, and it gets me upset all the time. But was I like the biggest fan of Ben Roethlisberger? No, not as a fan. I wasn't. As a media member, I wasn't. Like Ben was never the dude that like came up and gave me the best answer. You know what I mean? Sometimes Ben looked at me like, you are scum. And I was like, all right, pal, I get it. I am, but let's relax here, brother. Let's relax. But I will never back down from the fact that I think Ben is one of the most underrated players in Steelers history. Like this dude and what he did for the Pittsburgh Steelers organization is unmatched. It really is. Like without Ben Roethlisberger, you don't win those 2 Super Bowls. People will say the defense. I agree with you. Without that defense, you don't win those Super Bowls. But if Cordell Stewart, if Tommy Maddox, if Landry Jones, if Dennis Dixon, if Michael Vick, if whoever you want to toss out there is the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers for the last 20 years, they don't win 2 Super Bowls. Maybe Aaron, but Ben and what he did for this team, unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. I love that answer. Shout out to good old Big Ben Roethlisberger, who, I mean, is now a part of the media and I think likes us a little bit more. Number 2 for you. The Pittsburgh Steelers, we're talking TJ Watt draft or TJ Watt trade constantly. We're going to continue to talk about it. I bet you it's a tweet a week that Andrew Filipponi tossed out there, which I'm very grateful for. Very grateful for it. I woke up this morning and said, what are we going to talk about? Nothing. Jameson Williams. That's a cool one. Let's talk about Jameson Williams. Well, if it happens, okay, if the Pittsburgh Steelers actually pull off the move we never saw coming, what's more likely? That they get a draft pick higher or lower than what they gave up for DK Metcalf?
Oh boy. Call me crazy. Call me a pot stir, call me whatever. I think it is more likely that they would receive a draft pick lower than the one that they gave up. So a 2nd round pick for DK Metcalf, meaning I think it is more likely that they would acquire a 3rd round pick or farther back in the draft in a hypothetical TJ Watt trade. Is that what people want to hear? No. Is it what I want to say? No, but it's what I feel. I have to be honest.
I don't disagree with you. I think it's very hard for the Pittsburgh Steelers to get anything more than a 3rd round pick for TJ Watt right now. Maybe a 2nd, but I think that you're pushing it. Maybe a 3rd and some, but those 1st round aspirations, they're not there, man. They're not there. They should be. players should be valued higher, but he's 31 years old and doesn't have a contract, and teams will look at that and say, sorry, pal, if you were cheap, there's a good conversation to have here, but you're not. I like that one as well. Let's keep it trucking here. And number 3, let's stick on TJ Watt here. Okay. TJ's coming back. He's going to play with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2025. And at some point that might change. But today, where I stand, where you stand, where we all stand, hurting neck and all, the Pittsburgh Steelers expect TJ Watt to be in uniform come week 1 of the 2025 season, whether he's there on day 1 of training camp or not. Okay, great. So what happens? What's more likely? TJ Watt leads the NFL in sacks in 2025 or has the worst statistical sack season in his NFL career outside of the 5.5 that he had the year that he missed 10 games, which is his rookie season at 7 sacks.
Oh man. I mean, I would be an even worse version of myself if I were to say it's more likely for him to have the worst season after shouting from the rooftops that I think they need to pay this man an ungodly amount of money. So I'm going to confidently say that it is more likely that TJ Watt sets a new record, maybe goes 23 sacks, something like that, than he is to get less than 7 sacks in 2025. The man's going to come back motivated. And, 23 is lofty, sure. 22.5 lofty as well. But a hungry TJ Watt, a motivated and pissed off TJ Watt scares me.
Scares me, dude. Scares me. Anybody, does anybody remember what happened the last time TJ Watt held out at training camp and then showed up and played in the NFL? Nobody? Yeah, he tied the single season sack record. That's what happened. TJ is the scariest human being on the planet, man. I'm not joking. Dude. I caught this guy one time. I'll tell you a story in the locker room. I'm in the locker room. Alex Highsmith wins Defensive Player of the Week or something. It was awesome. TJ talks every Friday. This is like a Wednesday. So I was like, all right, I'm going to shoot my shot with TJ here. I'm going to go up to TJ and be like, yo, dude, can I get one quote on Alex so that I can write this story? Like, give me something. And I walked up to him. He wasn't expecting me because he talks on Fridays, and that's a well-known thing. And he looks at me. He's a little rattled that I was there. He didn't see me coming. And I was like, hey, dude, can I get one quote? And this dude like stuttered his words. Like he couldn't get it. It's like me right now. Couldn't get anything out. And was just like, yeah, I got to go to a meeting, dude, but I'll get you. And left. And in that moment, dude, him stuttering on his words still scared the shit out of me. Like I still looked at him and went, wow, that was so intimidating. Why are you so scary? Why are you such a scary human being? TJ is the scariest human alive, man. There's nothing in me that says this dude's going to go backwards. There's just nothing. There's not a single part of me. And if he does, then, he proved me wrong, but it's fine. I'll bet on greatness all day long. I will bet on greatness. And with that said, we'll finish off with this one. What's more likely, my friend? We've talked wide receiver all day long. We've named every single one of them in the NFL at this point. Everyone. If you play wide receiver in the NFL, you have been linked to the Pittsburgh Steelers in a potential trade and or signing. Well, I'll ask you this. What's more likely, Jacob? The Pittsburgh Steelers add a wide receiver before week 1 of the NFL season, or they add a safety?
I'll keep it short and sweet. Safety. Yes. I think we're going to see some secondary help come in, and I think we are going to all still be wondering where and when some wide receiver help will be coming to Pittsburgh once that happens.
I agree. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to go add a defensive back. I'm pretty confident in it. And I've not heard, this is a prediction. I've not heard anything. This is a prediction. And then they will see where their wide receiver position takes them. But I do not at any point right now expect the news of a wide receiver. Not yet. When we get to training camp, things could change. When they see how good or bad Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson are, things can change. But for right now, you want to know where they're looking? You want to know who they're calling? Justin Simmons, Julian Blackmon, Jordan Whitehead, all these guys on the open market to say who's coming to Pittsburgh to be our safety to replace Minkah Fitzpatrick. I 100% agree. And with that, that is my 4 what's more likely. So we got one here from Lindsay, and then if there's others, we'll grab them on the back half of this break, but I want to make sure we get this one out here. What's more likely, these TJ trade rumors die down, or the next rumor is we are trading TJ for Brandon Ayuk? Welcome back to the Brandon Ayuk saga.
Yeah, let's do it. 1 year later, it's a reunion special. I think it's more likely that we are going to hear something like that, like a TJ Watt for Brandon Ayuk trade, then this stuff's going to die down until pen hits paper and until that ink dries and an announcement is made and Noah is scrambling as to why this is the one day he decided to golf or something like that. And then he signs. That is the only time that this will change, and that is the only moment that these rumors will stop. Until then, it's going to get crazier and crazier. It's going to be Brandon Ayuk. It's going to be Justin Jefferson. It's going to be Brandon Ayuk plus an ownership stake in the San Francisco 49ers. It's going to get crazy. But then TJ Watt will sign and it all will die down and we will just be like, thank goodness.
I agree. Anything is possible. And until TJ Watt signs a contract, anything remains possible. With that said, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side of it, we're going to start answering all your questions. So make sure you're tossing them in the chat. We will be right back.
Pittsburgh, this one's for you. From the voices behind all Steelers talk comes Black and Gold apparel, your go-to for bold, fan-driven merch that reps the city, the Steelers, and everything in between. Whether you bleed black and gold or just love that Pittsburgh grit, we've got something for you. It's more than a podcast. It's a community. And thanks to your support, we're proud to bring the passion from our mics to your closets. Gear up, stand out, and show the world what real fans look like. Shop now at blackandgoldapparel.myshopify.com.
Alrighty. Shout out to all of our members. Shout out to all of our super chatters. Can't thank you guys enough. For those of you who called into the call-in show today, it was a good one. Go check that one out. Jacob, as I was scrolling through these comments, this live chat as we're doing this now, everybody reminded me to point out that you are freshly shaved today and that I look like James Harden. So shout out the Wonder Boy himself over here for showing up ready to go. Oh,
I'm so sorry. James Harden. You kind of look like a white James Harden.
That's awful, dude. I haven't shaved in like 2 weeks, and here we are.
That ain't right. Who said that? Because that's
literally everyone. I'm pretty sure. Literally
so
every single person.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that I shaved. I look like I'm like 3 whenever I do. But man, I don't know about you. Like my face gets so itchy if I don't shave every like couple of weeks. And so sometimes I just say screw it and just like I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get carded. You know, people are gonna think I'm not 18, maybe can't drive yet, and I'll just live with it for a week until some of this scruffiness comes back.
I'm gonna be honest. If I shaved this beard, I'd be very nervous about what's underneath it. So we're good. I don't know how many chins I got at this point. It's been a long time. Even when I did the mustache, I had to leave it a little bit there because I am so afraid. Okay. I don't think I'm going to get recognized. You know what I mean? My wife might be like,
that's the key. Yeah.
Who's in my house right now? Get out. She doesn't even kiss me. When I have a mustache, she won't kiss me for a week, dude. I'm not even exaggerating. It won't happen. She tells me to get away from her. So I can't do it. Shout out to Noah Harden, man. I'm here. I'm living it. We're waiting until training camp. We're in that weird phase where like it's July. I'm not getting a haircut until we go to Latrobe. It's just not happening. It's just not happening. All right.
I'm still recovering from the Noah Harden thing, so I just apologize. Wow, that was so good.
That was good. Shout out to Marlon Lewis. Happy late B-Day to the real scariest man alive, Jack Lambert. Shout out my guy back there, as always, keeping us company. Was the other day. And we'll keep it trucking here with good old Maddie. But does that wide receiver, as in Jameson Williams, move the needle? If TJ Watt were to get traded, which wide receiver does move the needle? Great question. I will ask you first. What wide receiver moves the needle for the Pittsburgh Steelers enough to feel good about it? And don't say none. It's got to be an answer.
It's got to be an answer. I won't cop out. Fair enough. The freshly shaven Jake won't. Chris Olave moves the needle. And That's it. So I didn't cop out. But Chris Olave is one of a very few people that I think would move the needle or make any type of hypothetical TJ Watt trade worth it. The list is so small. And the fact that Jamison Williams, who is similar age, to Chris Olave, I know Chris Olave outdoes him in career production so far by a considerable margin, but it just goes to show how narrow and how small this list is of receivers that would move the needle. But Chris Olave is on it.
Chris Olave is a good answer. Terry McLaurin is on that list. For me, it might end right there. Like it might end right there. I'll toss one name out here because it was tossed out here earlier, and in the midst of the Jamison Williams conversation, tortellini salad, would the Lions trade for TJ be better if the Lions offered St. Brown instead? Amon St. Brown would be the dude. He would never in a million years make his way to Pittsburgh. The Lions would be, I would call them crazy for making that trade. I'd be like, are you guys, you just get up here? Like, what's the game plan on this? This your second best player is maybe third, depending on how you feel about Kirby Joseph, but that is the guy for you outside of Aiden Hutchinson. Why would you do that? That he would move the needle. He would move the needle. It's 0% chance it would happen. Would be awesome. Would be, I mean, you'd have to toss in a little sprinkle here and there, but would be awesome. But he's 24 years old and probably top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, arguably.
Mm-hmm.
So would move the needle. I mean, for sure, move the needle for sure.
Yes, if they are offering him, I think that you would be pretty ill-advised to not consider it, because that is a game-breaking wide receiver to match up with DK Metcalf. So yeah, Amon St. Brown moves the needle for sure.
Yeah. I agree. Ham sandwich here. Ham sandwich, dude, tossing himself right in the picnic pack. Bold prediction. TJ Watt has his best statistical year in his career. He records 25 sacks with 3.5 with three sack games. Your thoughts? I mean, it would be awesome. It would be so awesome to watch TJ Watt break the sack record. It would just be fun. That was the most fun I've had covering the Pittsburgh Steelers. Was watching TJ Watt break the sack record. I say break it, but that was the count. Like I just sent a simple tweet. Every time he recorded a sack, TJ Watt now has 18.5 sacks. TJ Watt now has 19.5 sacks. Like, it was just like, it was fun. That was fun. I'm not 25 is a lot of sacks. Would I say no? I'll never say never in the NFL and with TJ Watt, but it would be awesome. It would definitely be awesome.
Yeah, I would love to see him have 3 sack games. 25 sacks. I mean, we would just be going crazy, I think, regardless of the season outcome. Not entirely, but I think 25 sacks would be cause for celebration for sure. That'd be a crazy outcome. What I do feel confident in is that TJ Watt will lead the league in most multi-sack games in 2025. I could see him having like 10 or maybe like 8 2-sack games or something like that.
Awesome.
Like him just doing something ridiculous like that. It might not be record shattering types of numbers, but I just think we're going to see a very fiery version of TJ Watt once he's on the field.
I agree. Do you have your laptop in front of you? Can you look up the most multi-sack games in NFL history if you if you got it there? While I address a couple of these here. Blessed Light, tell me caller number 3 on the call-in show was not Aaron Rodgers. I got to go back and listen, which is a great shout out to everybody. Go check it out. It was a good one today, and I will go back and check it out because I can't remember who caller number 3 was. What I do know is shout out to good old Jay for the Vodka Sonics love during the call-in show, the unofficial drink of all Steelers. I would say yes. I would say right now the Sonic is the unofficial drink of the AST call-in show for sure. I don't think we could brand it, but I think our sponsor guy would get upset, but the unofficial for sure. Just don't tell him. Just don't tell him. It was a good time. It was a good time.
Lawrence Taylor had 4 3+ sack games in 1986.
4 3+ sack games.
Yeah,
that's impressive. That's impressive.
TJ
Lawrence
Watt
Taylor,
had
man.
In 2021 he had TJ Watt had 3 3+ sack games.
So they were tied. Shout out TJ Watt, man. He's unbelievable. And this is why you don't get rid of TJ Watt. This is why you don't get rid of TJ. People say, "Oh, it was 5 years ago." All right, cool. 2 years ago, he was just as fine. He was just as fine. Not breaking the record, but you only do that once. And in TJ's path here, maybe twice. Let's keep it trucking here. Couple of good old catching up to do. Noah, has someone warned Caleb Johnson of Pat Fryermuth's fiance's banana thing? I hope so. Fantastic comment here. Fantastic. And I will warn him if not. First off, I've heard it was unbelievable.
It's like a banana boat situation.
No. Remember when Najee got sick after Thanksgiving and said that he ate too much of Pat Fryermuth's thing, which I don't think was the case, but also hilarious that was what was happening. And then Balto, slow down. Greetings from Korea. I think this is the first Korea shout out we have. So shout out, dude. I hope you are enjoying it. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for the support. Asada Burrito here. Noah, I hope you're right about TJ Watt. I have about $600 invested in Watt jerseys. That's crazy. I mean, I want to know what they are. Email a picture or something because I gotta show the world. But I think it was I think that's a good one here. Nate Moore, chances we bring in Brandon Ayuk. Does he make us contenders? Does Brandon Ayuk make the Pittsburgh not a TJ Watt trade? Does he make them contenders?
That's a legitimate wide receiver too. So yeah, it fills in a lot of gaps on offense for me. Moves them closer. I think I'd be willing to call them contenders at that point. With the question mark of just, assuming health for the wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, if you bring in, so my only thing with Brandon Ayuk is that he is drama. Like he is George Pickens level drama, and it is not a situation you're looking for if you're Pittsburgh. I mean, they were last year when they were chasing Brandon Ayuk. You couldn't imagine the number of phone calls and the number of conversations that I had where in the midst of the conversation, like you could just hear the exhaustion of like I hope it ends, man, because it's really difficult to kind of overlook the drama that he brings to a football team. And it really is true, like I don't think the Steelers would be interested just for that. I think they kind of avoided a disaster, and I think they are somewhat aware that they avoided a disaster. I do believe so.
Fair enough. Yeah, I character concerns and
character wise, not on the field plays. On the field, he's fine, but you don't get rid of George Pickens for George Pickens. It's just not.
Yeah, great point.
That's just not what you do. Enigma After Dark with another one. How about the Giants combo of Brian Burns and Darius Slay for TJ Watt?
No, pass.
Oh, why this one?
Because Darius Slayton doesn't do much for me.
I agree.
It's not that I view Darius Slayton, like, just take Brian Burns out of the equation.
Okay.
Darius Slayton does not do enough for me. Just like in a trade discussion, I think you could talk about Darius Slayton, or the only way I would talk about Darius Slayton is in the conversation for adding him as like the third wide receiver for the Steelers. So if it's in any sort of return, which again has to include any type of return for TJ Watt, which has to include a meaningful, roster players coming back, Darius Slayton doesn't get me excited. Sounds like maybe that this package does for you though.
I kind of like Brian Burns. I think Slayton's a very average wide receiver too. I don't think he does anything more, but he is a wide receiver too. I think Brian Burns to me is like really good. And do I think he's TJ Watt level good? Not even close. But if you're going to replace TJ Watt and get a 2-for-1, All right, not the worst. I look at it as a lower level Minka deal where I feel way less good about it, but I only feel way less good about it because I want TJ to be signed. I didn't care what was happening with Minka Fitzpatrick. I don't think that that moves the needle. But with TJ, if you told me TJ was inevitably leaving, this package to me isn't the worst package you could toss my way. I think it makes some sense for the Steelers.
Sure, and I will concede that, you know, at least Brian Burns is I pulled 27, so 4 years younger than TJ Watt. So,
Yeah.
you know, you would be looking at it as I will get probably more out of this player, more seasons and more snaps. So yeah, I understand that it is maybe satisfactory in some ways, you know, in this hypothetical of dealing TJ Watt. But yeah, it's just like you gotta just really wow me, and neither does in this scenario. So I do apologize, Enigma After Dark.
Yeah, but look at I think the wow is you'd have to really wow. Like it'd be a crazy wow for me to be like, oh yeah, you should actually pull that trade off. You should actually make that happen if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers. So speaking of, Marlon Lewis has a good one here. Who are some of the teams that you think will actually call for TJ Watt? I can't confirm any of these, but the teams that I have on my mind are pretty easy. The Detroit Lions would probably call. The Philadelphia Eagles, I think, would probably call. I would imagine that the Houston Texans are thinking maybe we could beef up the defense. I would imagine maybe the Miami Dolphins are thinking we can make another trade with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's check them out. I wouldn't rule out maybe that's how that conversation went. At least they tried with the TJ Watt when they got to the Minka for Jalen and Jonnu situation. The Buffalo Bills might give it a shot. It's contenders. Look at contenders and say, who could use an edge rusher? Who are the contenders that could use an edge rusher? And any of those guys, because the Tennessee Titans aren't calling, you know, the New England Patriots aren't calling, the Jacksonville Jaguars, maybe, you know, if they really feel confident, but man, they're probably not. They probably shouldn't do that, but it has to be a contender.
Here, two thoughts. Jacksonville Jaguars, Brian Thomas Jr. is certainly a player that moves the needle in terms of wide receivers,
sure.
Right? Here's two other teams that I think like maybe would have a desire. Three actually. The Chargers, if they really think they're all in. We just talked about Brandon Ayuk, but I think the 49ers are always in the market for defensive help. Just like I feel, this is not rooted in reality, but I feel like anytime a defensive player's name comes up in trade conversations, the 49ers get mentioned. And then here's a wild card: Arizona Cardinals. F it. You know, like they just, what if they were just like throwing caution to the wind and like, this is the year that Kyler Murray translates all of his video game skills into the NFL. And TJ Watt is the last piece, you know? So I think out West is sort of, I think, where my head ends up going.
I like that one, which brings up a good one here from Josh. How would you both have felt if the Steelers had traded for Kyler Murray instead of signing for Aaron Rodgers? Love the show. Ooh. Appreciate you, Josh. Mine would be a big fat no chance, brother. I'm not a Kyler Murray guy, dude. Donnie Drune's one of my best friends. You know what I mean? Like, and that guy tells me constantly, Kyler, he's all right. You know, he's above average probably, but not the greatest. And a lot of money. I'm not for $12 million, 10 million, 10 M's in the words of Aaron Rodgers, plus a little bit of incentive money here and there. I'm way cooler with that than an expensive Kyler Murray. Truthfully, I really am.
Yeah. Listen, Kyler Murray, I'm captivated by his athleticism, you know, to be perfectly honest, but there's not much else. I think he's probably overpaid, and every time I watch him, I just think of the videos that show him compared to a toddler running and how similar those forms look. And it's like, this is not me. I didn't say this, Noah. I didn't bring this up and say, oh man, you know who Kyler Murray looks like? A toddler. No, the internet did this and I just saw it. That's not the same thing. You know, I just enjoyed the comedy as it came to me. That's not that I didn't create it. Just don't track who posted it online back to an IP address. You know what I'm saying? Like, just don't do it. But the rumor is that he runs like a toddler. Um, and he kind of does. You should go watch
The
clips of him
rumor is that he
rumor.
runs like a toddler. That's
He does,
insane.
man. He's got like his arms out a little bit. They're like almost like at the same height as like his ears sometimes when he scrambles, and it's like when a toddler's like running away with a toy.
I don't even know how to respond to that. A toddler running, which is awesome. And I'm about to clip this and send it to Donnie immediately, only to be shared in the locker room at all times at the Arizona Cardinals facility for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Ryan here, do you think we could see more blitz packages this year? We've gotten away from it in recent years, and I feel like it's a piece that's missing. So it's kind of weird to me because the Steelers at one point were a big blitz team, and then they pulled away from it like almost at the Arizona Super Bowl. I remember it was the first time that I like knew what sports gambling was because my cousin who I was watching the game with made a bet that Pittsburgh would blitz more than 4, like 6 times or something. It was an over under of 6 times, and it was under. So to me, they've gone down on it quite a bit. I don't know what's going on, but to be honest, I think that, right now they don't have a blitzing middle linebacker. Patrick Queen is more of an all-around guy, athletic guy. Maybe Cole Holcomb could be that dude. And really up until right now with Jalen Ramsey, since Mike Hilton, you haven't had a blitzing corner. Maybe Beanie. Patrick Peterson, I still remember this play clear as day. I've said this story 15 times on this show. I'll say it one more. He's coming off the edge in Buffalo in the playoff game. Dude, he hits Josh Allen, and this is literally this is what happened. That was it. There's nothing going. Josh didn't even move. It was like a fly just bounced off of him. They haven't had that guy since Mike Hilton. So I think it's player personnel as much as anything. The 3 linebackers I think is going to help. I really do. I think having 3 outside linebackers healthy at all times that you feel really good about is going to help change that. I think Jalen is going to help change that. I think a healthy inside linebacker room changes that. So I'm hoping, but I think blitzes work. I think the Steelers do not blitz enough, and I think they should. I think they'd benefit from it.
Yeah. Do you think like adding Jalen Ramsey in will give any sort of I will probably get my timing wrong. It was either right when he got to Miami or at the start of last year, their defensive coordinator had some sort of quote about like trying to incorporate more blitzes into like his repertoire with the Dolphins, and he had a few sacks afterwards. Again, not 100% sure of the timing. I'll look that up later, so apologies, but he has a tackling ability. I wonder if they get creative in him, and since we've talked about him being used in sort of all different ways, varying sort of roles on the field and all over the field, could that be a part of it? And could that be a way we see more blitzing from the Steelers in 2025?
Yeah, I do. I think that's where you go. Like I think that's what you've done this offseason is add the physicality to your team all around to allow those things to happen. Cole Holcomb is a guy that I think as well adds himself to this group where you feel capable of doing these things. Jalen's capable of doing these things. Darius Slay off the edge would be so awesome. But I think that's what you're doing. So yeah, I do think that the Jalen's a big piece to this, but I don't think that the personnel has been there, in a couple of years. I don't want to say forever, but definitely since like 2021-ish, right in that ballpark when they lost. I'd say Mike Hilton was really the end of like they have a blitzer that they feel like really good about. And since then they've kind of gone away from it. So I see a change, but when we'll see what happens. Do
you think you could name one of the 5 teams that blitzed the most last year? I have the answers pulled up right here.
The New York Giants.
No, but you're on the right path. It's not.
Yeah, it's not bad teams.
It's not. Yeah, it's not correlated to good.
They're bad teams. That's who blitzes the most are bad teams because they don't know what to do and they are in panic mode. The Tennessee Titans.
Well, no, but you're close. I'll give it to you so I don't keep you scrambling. But the Jets were one of those teams. The
Yep.
Cleveland Browns were one of those teams.
Yep.
The Indianapolis Colts were one of those teams. Two outliers, though, got to include those. Green Bay Packers led the league in percentage of blitzes run, and the Kansas City Chiefs were third. So
the Kansas City Chiefs, that's what that, but that, like, again, like that's Steve Spagnuolo, like that's his specialty is those weird blitzes. And the Steelers can learn a thing off of weird blitzes. Like they should have some weird blitz. I agree. The Steelers should have some weird blitzes for sure. For sure. All right. Couple here that I just want to answer quick. Maddie, isn't Williams a cancer, so to speak? Why would we do that when we just got rid of Pickens? I've actually, so I had the same kind of depiction of Jameson Williams, and I spoke to a couple people at the combine about him, and that is totally wrong from what I've been told. Now everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I was told he's a phenomenal teammate and like a dude who got in trouble, but like it was a misunderstanding when he got in trouble. It was just like he didn't have paperwork on him, and that was the problem, which again, like serious issue. I get it, but from everything I've been told, he's actually like really good, like and has been a really good positive influence in Detroit. So and to be honest, like I didn't get that from like a personnel guy. I got that from a couple of media people. And when you get it from media people, it's real, because if somebody asked me, hey, what's your thoughts on George Pickens? And I tell them he's a problem. Like he's not, he's going to cause drama. That's what he's going to do. So you get the intel that way, I think, best on these guys. And I've heard some good things. I've definitely heard some pretty good things. And then here's another one before we keep it trucking here. Tyler Dots, who's scarier, TJ or James Harrison? Without question, zero thoughts here. It is James Harrison. He is the scariest human being on the planet. That guy made me shiver through a laggy Zoom call 3 years ago, and I still have nightmares over it. So it's without question. It is James Harrison. Steelers unluckiest reindeer. Again, I chuckle every time. If we trade TJ, are we not all in? And that would ruin our whole offseason. We need to acquire new pieces while keeping our cornerstones. I agree. That's my biggest argument. That's Jacob's biggest argument, is whether you think the Steelers are going to win a Super Bowl or not, they've put everything into winning a Super Bowl. And if you lose TJ Watt, you do not have a shot to win a Super Bowl. You just don't. It goes away. So, Steve, this is spot on. You've completely thrown away everything you've done this offseason.
Yeah, point me to a team that won a Super Bowl after they traded not only their best player, but arguably the best player at his position. You know, it just, if there's an example of it and I'm wrong and I'm just like oblivious to something, like I'll say I'm wrong. It's fine. I just don't think it happens in the NFL. You just don't. You cannot make yourself worse and expect to win when it is just so brutally difficult to do so in the NFL.
Yes, you just, and in the Steelers instance, it's here, which is again why I think it's going to happen. Brian Gallagher, member for 4 months. Shout out, my friend. What's more likely, we win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, or we would have won at least one with Dan Marino? I think, to me, this is a clear-cut answer, but go ahead.
God,
you're thinking on this,
dude. I am thinking on this. You think we would have? You think it's easily said that we would have won 2 with Marino? I know he was that good, but
it says at least one. Would have won at least one.
Oh, I thought it said more than one. Oh, Brian, Noah, I'm an idiot. See, that was the problem. Yeah, I mean, if it's a slam dunk Marino, then he would have, like, how would he have not won a Super Bowl with the Steelers?
That's
you know, the script writers would have made it happen at least in his final year.
The Miami Dolphins during the Dan Marino run were like the worst team in the NFL. It's wild. It's so bad. So this is a good one, but it's Dan Marino. It's definitely Dan Marino. Broderick Wallace here. If TJ skips training camp, how confident are you that TJ and the defensive front will all be on the same page if he's going to move around this season? I feel pretty good. Like I don't think I'm real worried about it. There are a few people on this team that I think already have a really good understanding of what's happening. That's TJ on top of Cam, his connection to Nick Herbig and Alex Highsmith. I just don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Like, Keanu Benton's a nose tackle that he doesn't really that doesn't affect anything TJ does. And Derek Harmon, like, great, but I think Derek Harmon and TJ are going to get acquainted real fast. So it doesn't it does. TJ, there are a lot of people that if they didn't show up, I'd be worried. TJ is not. He's just not one of them.
Yeah, I don't care. He doesn't have to practice in my mind. He doesn't need to go to training camp. Like, is that a different standard than everyone else is afforded on the team? Sure, but who gives a shit? It's TJ Watt. Like,
yeah,
it won't matter. He steps on the field. He's paid. The boy's gonna produce.
I agree. Keeping it with two more here. Milton, Noah, if Cincinnati doesn't sign Shamar Stewart, what happens to him? I don't think he plays. Like, I don't know what happens.
He can go back into the draft next year.
Well, is that what would happen?
Yeah, the Bengals would give up his rights, and I think there is some. I'm not 100% sure of the process in between, or if he has to like declare and go back to school or something like that, or like that in between. But he would be eligible for the draft again.
That's great. Could you imagine a team taking another shot on him? No chance. No chance. Zero chance. And we'll finish it with this one. Enigma After Dark. Would you trade Pat Freiermuth for Kyle Pitts?
No, I like Kyle Pitts a lot. I just don't think if you brought in Kyle Pitts, then like who's like your safety blanket tight end? Like Jonnu Smith to me is like a playmaker. He's someone who you can move around the line of scrimmage so much because of that. Freiermuth is that guy who I want running those quick, 5 yards and then he's available. I want him running underneath. I want him chipping and then going on a quick out. Like,
yep.
If you have just Pitts and Smith there to do that, a lot gets placed on Darnell Washington's shoulders. And as great of a blocker as he is, I don't really want to see him take that much of an increased role in the offense. So no, not right now. If you had Pitts in the mix somehow while keeping Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith, all the better. But one for one, I'm not about it.
No, I agree. Like Pat, to me, Kyle Pitts is great. I think he's got a ton of potential. I think Pat Freiermuth, man, is incredible. Like I am one of the biggest Pat Freiermuth supporters and will remain a big Pat Freiermuth supporter. And because of that, I say no. With that said, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk, and subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. On Friday, remember, we're giving away the Chubby's golf polo. So make sure that you go to our community page on our YouTube channel and check out how to enter there. With that said, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. And it's about to rain, but somebody in the comments said that Jacob's softball game is still a go. So that's a great, that's positive news as we end this one. Enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.